Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Clifton Johnston. I'm the founder and the executive director of the Empower Series. And we're here because of the generous donations of A&E Media Group as well as Comerica Bank and your generous donations. So I want to thank you for that. We have our guest. It's going to be Erik Wilson. I want to introduce him in a minute, but I'm very excited about that. But I also want to say that not only do I appreciate your generous donations in bringing us here today, if you want to donate and contribute more, you can always go to our website, which is www.empowerseries.com. You can hit the donate button, or you can text GIVE to 214-225-6337, or just come to our events. Our events for this month of August, we've got 3 coming up. I'm very excited about the events. We have a guest coming in from Los Angeles, Wendy Ida. You can check her out, Wendy Ida Fitness. She has a compelling, inspiring story. There's an article of her in the Southern Dallas Magazine that should be out pretty soon, as well as the fact that we're going to have a lunch and learn. Normally we have our lunch and learns at the Meadows Conference Center on the Friday before the third Saturday of each month. But this time we're going to be at the Network Bar in Trinity Groves. So mark your calendar, August 16th at 11:30 to 1, Network Bar. The dress code is business casual, so don't be coming, come right. And then on Saturday, we have our workshop at the Highland Hills Library, as always, on the third Saturday of every month at 10:30 to 12. And then also on the 24th of August, I'm so excited because we're having our first really official Empower Series fundraiser, which is going to be at Fitness 360, which is off of Live Oak. So definitely look at the calendar, look at our Facebook, connect with us. You'll see information about that. But without any further ado, I want to introduce you to our man of the hour today, Mr. Erik Wilson, with a K now, right? Erik was the prior District 8 City Council member.
Yes, sir.
And also you were the Deputy Mayor Pro Tem.
Correct.
Voted in by the other council members.
Correct.
And you were a teacher. Well, you're always a teacher, right?
Always a teacher.
Always a teacher.
Never stopped being a teacher.
Accounting and entrepreneurship at
Duncanville High School.
Duncanville High School, right?
Yes.
So married, a father of 3.
Yes.
Just an all-around good person, good guy. But I'll tell you right now that he is the reason that we are at the Highland Hills Library. In 2015, we moved from Cedar Valley College to Highland Hills Library, and it was because of you, bro.
Yeah, that was a great coup because I just had to have you there.
So I want to thank you for that, and I want to thank you for also spending an hour with us to talk about some good stuff that's happening, not just in District 8, but also in the city of Dallas, right?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me, and thank you for this opportunity to be on your show. I would say that I am very, very proud of you from when we first met to now. You got your own podcast, so you're doing big things, man.
Dude, I'm just out there. It's called a growth mindset. I'm just diving in, right? Like AE Media Group told me, I was just telling Erik before we got on the line, that they pushed me out to do this because they put a flyer out there saying that the Empower Series podcast is coming soon.
So you got to do it, right?
Right. And did they talk to me about that? It was just an idea. But then, like you said, you're going to be doing something soon, right?
Yes, sir.
You want to make the announcement here? Well, I just put it out there for you,
much
right?
like you being voluntold. Yes,
Right.
yes. Yeah, I have the opportunity, great opportunity to be able to host my own radio show. Mr. Ernest Walker has a radio station and graciously invited me to be able to have a show to where that I too can be out in the community and talk about the positive stories of the community, highlighting what's happening, not only just in Oak Cliff but all around Dallas, but just giving a positive spin on what we normally would see in the news every day. So.
Oh, man. So speaking of that, that's one of the things that we had talked about. There's a lot of, when you look at the news, there's a lot of negative things going on, and I really don't listen to the news. And when you look at what's happening in Washington and how it's rippling throughout the nation, we really have to do something to counter that by injecting and really revealing a lot of the positive stuff that's happening in our communities, and just making that a big injection, because when you look at the kids and what they're exposed to right now and how they're being raised, it's going to be, we're going to pay the price if we don't do something about it now. Immediately.
And that is so true, because in media, if it bleeds, it leads. If it's violent, it sells. And they're not really in the business of telling feel-good stories. Now, they'll have their feel-good stories every once in a while, particularly great time during sweeps week when they're looking for ratings. But for the most part, they're going to tell you the doom and gloom because that's what people have become accustomed to. But that positive story, that story about what a nonprofit is doing or what an individual is doing to help their community, those stories, or an educator or a business person who's giving back, those are the stories that are not being told.
Right. So let's give them some let's give them some attention. Right.
Give them some attention. Yeah. Let's show a spotlight on the single parent or the individuals who's volunteering their times at the schools or volunteering at the recreation center to work with seniors and things of that nature. The person who's giving back, the person who is installing or instilling life into people as opposed to glamorizing something bad that's happened.
Okay, so before we talk about what you're doing now,
Yes,
and you being a teacher and injecting positivity in your community, tell us about your background. Where are you from? How were you raised? And what is it that gives you the foundation to do what you're doing today?
I'm a native of Dallas, born in Dallas, but grew up in East Texas, small town called Atlanta, Texas. So if you know where that is, home in the piney woods. Small town, about 3,200. So very country, known for cotton. As I did the research on it, picking cotton. I was like, wasn't too excited about that.
Wow.
I remember my days actually being out there and picking okra. I just thought it was fun. But if you ever picked okra, you have to be very careful.
Isn't it kind of sticky?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's not sticky, but it's the prickly. It's,
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Okay.
They will get in, and I itched for a week, and that was the last time I picked it. But grew up in East Texas, came back to Dallas, was born to a very transient family. As a matter of fact, my sisters and I, we've gotten together. We've tried to put together a lineage, and we came to realize that it was about 22, 23 of us. And my dad was truly a Rolling Stone.
Got you on that.
From California to Florida, we have them all spread out. Graduated from Dallas. In Dallas, as a matter of fact, my high school is right down the street, Business and Management Center, which is now an architecture firm and business. So I got a chance to go back there a couple of weeks ago and kind of reminisce on that. But graduated from Business and Management Center and then went on to UT Arlington. Well, via having gone through some of the community colleges, graduated from UTA with a bachelor's in finance, and then graduated from Amberton with my master's in strategic leadership. So, and had various jobs, worked in the banking industry, worked in real estate, and found my way into teaching.
Okay, so when did you come to Dallas? What age were you when you?
I was born in Dallas, but I was born.
Well, a small town.
I was born in Dallas. About a year into my life, I was raised by my great grandmother in East Texas.
And how long did you stay in East Texas?
I stayed there for about 7 or 8 years.
Oh, okay, so
and then
came back in middle school.
Came back to Dallas. Yeah, lived in all parts of Dallas. Lived at the bottom. Lived in Oak Cliff, Avenue H, lived in South Dallas, Meyer Street. So pretty much, like I said, what I mean by transit, we pretty much moved every year. So I was at a different school each year in different areas.
So I'm curious. So I'm from Los Angeles.
Okay.
So from LA, right in between the Crenshaw District, High Park District. So when you see Boys in the Hood, that was my hood.
That was
right?
you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so it's really interesting because even though I was raised in an area where there was a lot of crime and a lot of things going on that I didn't really get sucked into, fortunately, my mother was very involved in the community. She had something called the Madden Avenue Athletic Club. So she would take all of the kids and we would be doing push-ups and sit-ups on our front lawn, and then she would take us on a run around the block, just to get involved and do things.
Right.
And so I want to know, before we get into your community involvement in teaching, what would you say is the biggest influence you had as you were growing up that is reflected in what you're doing today in the community?
I would have to say it would be my exposure to the haves and have-nots. Okay. And I would have to say my parent was the have-not, because coming from a situation where we didn't have running water, and my mom and her boyfriend, they worked, but we would wait until like midnight, and then we would wait for our next door neighbor across the street, wait for him to go to work, and then he would go to work, and then my sister, my mom, her boyfriend, myself, we would all run in the middle of the night to fill up water jugs, just so that we would have water to flush the toilet, to be able to drink, to be able to wash our hands and things of that nature. Having come from that environment, and then having lived a little bit with my cousin who lived in Grand Prairie, who was upper middle class, and the idea of saying, okay, this is what it's like to be able to open a refrigerator and have food in it, or to be able to get in a vehicle and go to Padre Island or go to Galveston, or just to be able to go downtown and just see what it's like to live, stay in a hotel. that experience from nothing, starting from the bottom, literally, now we're here, experience gave me the idea of, okay, I can do better. There is an alternative. I don't have to settle for this. So that's what's driven me in terms of my passion, in terms of trying to help other individuals who may be that way or don't see that there's an alternative and there's an outlet, to let them know, to expose them. That's why I'm all about exposure and exposing people to things that they may not realize are out there and opportunities that don't exist.
Okay, so that's great. This tells me a little bit more about you, right? so as you graduated with your degrees and you got into the corporate world,
Yes.
How long did you work in the corporate world before you decided to be a teacher?
I think I started actually working when I was 15. So my first job was McDonald's, and then I was a Jamaican in high school. I think in 3 jobs. I had no less than 4 jobs by the time I graduated high school. So I always worked multiple jobs. I worked in corporate about maybe 10, close to 15 years before I realized, you know what, I'm not making anybody happy but the stockholders and making my boss more money. I'm not giving back to the community. I'm not feeling I'm being beneficial in some way. So my wife was a teacher at the time. She was like, well, why don't you try teaching? I was like, yeah. And oddly enough, I've always wanted to be a teacher, believe it or not, and that's because of my own experience in growing up. And even though I went to a magnet high school, I almost didn't graduate, and it was because of my family experience. Not many people can say that they were left by their parents twice. So I was abandoned by my mom when I was first born, about 1.5 years. So that's why I moved with my great grandmother. She took me, and then partly way in my freshman year of high school, my mom and her boyfriend and my sister just one day just left me at the house by myself with no note, no nothing. No food, nothing. The lights were off, the water were off, and it was just, I don't know if we were about to be evicted. So that's how I ended up staying with my grandmother. So from that background, in terms of dealing with that traumatic experience, during that time period, I was an A student. Mm-hmm. So then grades started slipping. So made it through high school, but I always said that I wanted to give back to somebody else to make sure that they didn't have to go through what I went through. And if there was some way that I can help somebody not make those same mistakes, that's what I want to do. So that's why I wanted to get back into teaching.
Okay, so a couple of things, man. So you being able to see the haves and the have-nots when you were growing up, you being abandoned twice. Mm-hmm. How you dealing with that today, man? You got some scars. You got some issues.
You're always going to have scars.
You can reveal it here. I mean,
open up here. Just
right, open up, man. Tell us about it.
You can always have those, but it took me a while to develop that relationship with my mom.
Okay.
And my dad, he wasn't around. I mean, he died pretty early in my life. I think I was in high school when he died. But that reconciliation between us, and as I got older, I began to realize that, okay, my mom did the best she could with the best knowledge she had. So she did what she thought was right at the time. And if I think that if she could do it over again, she would definitely do it differently. And just realize that no matter what, people make choices, and whether they know the outcome of those choices or not, you still have free right to make those decisions, but every decision comes with a consequence. Not all consequences are bad. Some consequences are good. And just with that understanding that everybody has free will and free right to make choices, then you just have to deal with whatever choices that they make and then move on from there.
So what would you say kept you on the straight and narrow besides going left? And, you know what I mean?
I had plenty of opportunities from the guys in neighborhoods that were selling drugs and going.
Right.
But I was always a child. Growing up in East Texas, I sat at the feet of seniors, great grandparents. For me growing up, it wasn't uncommon to have or to be around somebody who was 101, 110. I just thought that was the norm. People lived to 100. But I sat at their feet, and while other kids were out playing, I would be sitting down listening to what they were saying. Okay. And they would give me, those sayings like, fat meat's greasy, I've forgotten more than what you'll ever know. Mm-hmm. Been there, done that. Those sayings and those things that stuck with me, and they would impart on to me wisdom and say, hey, don't do this because this is going to happen. And if you do it, then it's on you, but I've warned you. And a few times, of course, being
You had to
inventive.
test it out.
I had to
Right?
test it out.
Yeah.
And then when it came true, I was like, whoa, maybe they know what they're talking about.
Right. Maybe there's some truth to the rest of the story.
There's some
right?
truth to the rest of the story. So what I did was I just watched other people and learned from other people's mistakes. And that's what I try to teach my sons. Like, look, you don't have to make that same mistake. Watch what these other guys are doing. And if it doesn't work out, then that's what you know not to do. If it works out, then that's a possibility for you to do. But you can probably do more, do something different to add to it. But I've always been one to just look at other people's mistakes and say, okay, not doing that.
Don't need it. Yeah, I got you. Well, man, I appreciate that. I appreciate you sharing a little bit more about your background because many people don't see that.
No.
They see you as a teacher and they,
Yes.
they think you're an accounting teacher, you teach entrepreneurship, and we're going to talk about that stuff.
Okay.
But then they also see you running for office, and you ran for office before you got elected. Actually, you got elected in 2015, but
Correct.
you tried in the previous year.
I tried in 2007 with my first run, and I ran on an idealistic notion that, hey, politics, you can just go out there and people will know you, and you could they don't. It's a totally different world. It's you can read all the books about
Campaigning
and all that all you want to, but
throw it out the window. Right?
You throw that out the window. It's just you making somebody else money.
Gotcha.
But the idea that in campaigns you get 2 or 3 minutes to talk. Or a minute to respond. So that's very little time for someone to get to know who you are and what your background is. So I appreciate that because most people don't even get a chance to hear that story other than the fact of, if I do get a chance to talk about having lived in a home with no running water and having to get water in the middle of the night. And mind you, that was rain, sleet, or snow. We did that. So it was a challenging time. So.
Yeah, so many people, and at the Empower Series, I have people speak local from the community as well as bringing people from out of town. But I always tell them to tell their story first of how they've had to overcome some type of adversity to achieve their goal. Because what was it? Dr. Randall Pinkett said, many people see the success, they see the glory, but they don't see the process of success.
Right.
And all of the times that you've tried and you may have failed, but then you've had that growth mindset, not a fixed mindset that says, okay, I can't do it. Okay, this is information now. Now, second time around, I need to do a little bit more. You do a little bit more effort or do something differently.
Do something different and learn from your mistakes because that is what I try to impart. Because one of the things I will say is that I tell people I used to be a shy kid. I used to stutter. I used to have low self-confidence. And I tell them, like, okay, now guess what? As a result of that, I was elected to the 9th largest city in the United States, was 3rd in line for mayor, and I got a chance to speak to the entire world. And I unfortunately it was through the shootings that happened on July 7th. Right. I got a chance to, by happenstance, interview with a reporter right after we had just got through visiting all the officers and that had passed and their families and giving our condolences from the city. I was just walking out of Baylor, and the reporter asked me, would I do a quick interview? And I was like, yeah, sure. And her question was, how do you feel? And the only thing I could say was, why us? Why did this happen to us? I don't understand. This is not us. From that short, brief interview, I got phone calls from CNN, MSNBC, CBS, CNN International, did an interview with Wolf Blitzer.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, I know. So I got a chance to be broadcasted internationally. So here I am from a kid from Oak Cliff who used to look at downtown Dallas and say, one day that's where I want to be, to someone now who's on the national stage in terms of talking about the healing of a city after a tragic accident.
Yeah, so one of the things then is that when you were a child getting the water after midnight, no way you could have envisioned where you would be and the impact that you would have on the millions of people's lives.
Nowhere.
And even today, when you look at the future of where you're going to be 5-10 years from now, you cannot imagine where you will be, but you got to step forward confidently.
Yes.
And know that even if you're making some missteps today, that doesn't define you. That's just part of your journey.
That's just part of your journey. You know, what's helpful is speaking to civil rights leaders, and they talk about when they were with Martin Luther King Jr. and the marches, and to hear them say, you know what, we did that not knowing what we were doing. We just did it. There was no roadmap. There was no strategy session sitting down, okay, we're going to map this out and this is what's going to happen. A a lot of the stuff they just did because they had to do it, and it was the right thing to do, and the results of it were what we know now. So what you're saying is exactly right. You don't know what path you may be blazing or following and where it's going to take you.
Okay. Well, and also that time was really bad. I remember, I think I met with you the day before that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so our deepest condolences to, all of the police officers and their families that were affected by this, and all of the citizens
Yes.
who were affected by this. We never want things like that to happen
Again.
And then when we go through that, you got to think, okay, what can we learn from that? So hopefully that tragedy has put us in a better place to avoid those things happening in the future.
Right. And as a policymaker, that's not in the job description. Right. That's not in when you're talking about making policy for a city and trying to, clean up trash or catch dogs or things of that nature. There's no fine print that says, in case of tragedy, this is what you do. So it's just kind of fly by the seat of your pants and, try to step back from it as quickly as you can to assess the situation and then make a level-headed decision.
Yeah, and then you were saying that after working 10 years in the corporate life, you were thinking, okay, I'm making people rich, so let me do something different. And your wife was like, why don't you be a teacher?
Right.
And then tell me about the rest of that conversation.
Well, during that time period, we were starting to grow our family. And, to be honest with you, I got really sick and tired of during the months of June, July, in August.
She being off work, right?
Oh my God. I'm waking up early in the morning. They snugged, deep in the covers in the bed. And, if she rolled over and looked at me, otherwise it was like, hey, good luck with that. Good luck with work today. And, and just the driving to work, and you can tell the difference when school's out because traffic is light and it's easy to get to work. And then when school's back in, it's like, it's all heck to pay. Yeah. So I got tired of that lifestyle. Besides, I was living in Oak Cliff, working in Richardson, and I was like, wow, that's a long drive. I enjoy that, but there also has to be something closer to home. And like I said, again, we're growing our family, we're having kids, and I just wanted to spend time with my family. So I wanted to make sure that, again, going back to my past, I wanted to make sure that I was the dad that I wanted to see and wanted to be.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So when you started teaching, what was your subject? Was it always accounting, or did you go into something else?
No, when I first started teaching, and I didn't go the traditional route of going through like some of these programs now where they teach you how to teach. And mine was like originally I had gotten hired at
thrown in there, right?
Oh yeah, I originally got hired at Skyline, but they had a freeze, so they rescinded the position. Got a job, went to a job fair, and got a position in Italy, Texas.
Right.
And then basically they say, hey, welcome, congratulations, you have a degree, you work on your certification, here's your key, good luck, see you at the end of the day.
Interesting.
Yeah, so my introduction was but I had my wife again. We talked about our spouses. She had been working in juvenile justice center, and she basically gave me a structure to use.
She helped you out.
Yeah, she helped me out, which was, oh my God, was a godsend because otherwise it's like sink or swim. Gotcha. So from there, I originally started teaching computers. I was teaching computers, global business and computers. It was my first classes I taught.
Okay, so I'm going to get into the entrepreneurship, which is what we talked about before. But have you ever started before you started teaching? Did you have any entrepreneurial pursuits?
Yes, small ones. I've done real estate, which I'm getting back into. Okay. I was a courier. I was a process server. That was fun. Serving people paper, but it doesn't pay as much. It's a little dangerous on the side.
I was going to say, man, a little bit dangerous.
Yeah, a little bit dangerous. I only had a gun pulled on me once, but yeah. So I enjoyed that. But starting from my childhood, my first entrepreneurial job was cutting grass. Gotcha. I had my lawnmower pushing down the street. Had a desire, but just didn't have, I would say, mentors to be able to help mold that. I didn't have many examples because most of my family members, they work for somebody. The only one who had kind of an entrepreneurial spirit was my grandfather. Okay. And he was kind of a jack of all trades, even though he was a truck driver, but he still was an entrepreneur because he grew up, he dropped out of school in 6th grade to be able to help his mom. And so he kind of had that entrepreneurial spirit and kind of made his way that way. So,
All right. So, but when we were talking about going to the Highland Hills Library to do our workshops, I remember we had a lot of discussions on entrepreneurship.
Yes.
And what we want to do to improve the economic development in the area.
Yes.
You've had some thoughts on it, and given your experience on the council, you've been enlightened to how things work underneath the scenes that a lot of citizens are not aware of, I'm sure. But now that you're back and you're going to be teaching again, what would you say we should be doing to improve our ability to participate in the economic development that is happening in the southern sector of Dallas?
Let me just say, partly, let me back up just a little bit and then go forward in terms of why I wanted you there. Having taught entrepreneurship, and I learned there's a difference between theory and application.
True.
What we were teaching is theory. Application is something totally different, and it was not complete in terms of how it's being taught. And I wanted to expose people to what I thought was three sides of entrepreneurship. Most people think about entrepreneurship as putting together a business plan. That's great. Getting together your models or whatever service you're going to provide and getting some flyers and business cards and getting your place or equipment and then open up a door and expecting everybody to come. That doesn't happen. That's the theory part of it. I mean, that's the theory part of it. But then the second part of entrepreneurship is the actually having a physical location, and what does that mean and how working in that physical location. Putting that together is great, and yes, you may be successful, but the other part where you came in was I was so excited was that what it actually took to be an entrepreneurship, the mindset of an entrepreneur, and that is the part that was missing. What is it like actually to be an entrepreneur? What are the mental challenges and physical hardships you go through that's not being taught when you're putting together a business plan, was not being said when you actually have your facility until you get there. So I wanted a three-pronged process because once I was on council, the Entrepreneurship Center for Dallas was always downtown. And when I was talking to people, they were like, well, I want to start my own business. I said, well, on the 5th floor of downtown library. They were like, I'm not going downtown. So what did I do? I decentralized it. I made it to where that the entrepreneurship for the city of Dallas was embedded in all libraries. So the individuals go to the library. Then was instrumental in helping to bring the deck into Redbird Mall, UNT Dallas, and Paul Quinn. So there's three centers for that. And then instrumental in bringing you were the first piece of that domino. Well, so now if you look at it, creating a system so that you can not only move from creating your business plan all the way to be able to, once you have it started, making sure that you have your mental and your finances together through the empowerment series. That's why I'm so excited.
And there's multiple places they can go.
Right. And
not just one place.
Right. And understand that every entrepreneur is at different stages. And that was the reason why it's separated that way, because some people have it in their head and they hadn't put it on paper. And some people are actually doing it, but they need to move, or they want to move from small to mid. And that was my whole goal, to make sure the individual could move from where they are to the next level.
Right. Okay. And that's great, because it is, I see your three prongs. Part of it is intellectual principles, knowledge. That's always good. Education is always good. It never ends. Dennis Kimbrough says when he talks to certain entrepreneurs and they ask why did they become so successful, one of the entrepreneurs said that I simply outread the other one. Right? So you put more in your head, but it's more than just outreading, putting application and putting that to work, and nothing happens without action.
Correct.
So you may have an imagination, great, vivid imagination of what you want. You need to know. You need to be educated to actually see, okay, how do the pieces go together? Then you need to take action.
Right. And
you need to be consistent with that, because the mindset piece is that things do not happen as planned. And when you get slapped in the face and you go like, what? It's like Mike Tyson says, we're all fighters.
Until that first punch.
Yeah. Yeah, I got you on that. But he also says we're all fighters, and he says, but not everybody's disciplined enough to get up and work out in the gym.
True.
And to do the work and to come to the gym 2 to 3 hours early to really be prepared to go out into the gym of life, right, and fight.
Right.
And fight.
And that's what I saw in the classroom. And this is what I always try to tell anybody who's doing entrepreneurship or interested in entrepreneurship, start at elementary. Because you have to look at it from this standpoint. Most students are told from the time they're in pre-K to the time they graduate, go to school, graduate, get a job. They're not really molded or told about entrepreneurship. They may have Lemonade Day or something like that, but it's not really a necessity or really a harped upon as part of being something that they could actually do And then here I am in high school trying to teach a child who has no interest in entrepreneurship, has no role models in entrepreneurship, and telling them, hey, you don't have to go to work for somebody. You can start your own business. And they're looking at me like, yeah, right. I'm going to go work for this store or this store.
Well, you know what? Dr. Michael Roberts said this. So he picked up this phone. He would do this, and he can pick up any object. And he says, okay, let's look at this object. And you know that it was sold by, mine is a Google phone. So Google's making money.
Right.
But he says, let's think about how many businesses were involved in bringing this to fruition. So first I have a clear case on my phone. So there's a company that came up with the molding for the case. But then the actual material that was being molded, some company created that and probably sold it to the company that was molding to build the cases. Then these cases are in different colors. So then someone actually has a business with different colors and inks to give to the people to put in the different cases. And so all the plastic and then all the glass, the shield, not just, all of these different things. So you can take any object in your classroom and have the students think about what are all of the businesses that exist to bring this product to fruition. And the question is, how many of those businesses would you want to be a part of? Or how many of those businesses are really run by people of color?
Right, and that's kind of a visualization exercise I do with my students, and I always have them to envision where you live at. They're used to Google Maps, and I'll say, okay, let's use Google Maps. Let's zoom in into where you live at, okay? So we see it, we're 300 feet, so we can see your house, a few houses behind it. I said, let's zoom out. I said, now what do you see? You begin to see the neighborhood, whether you live in a home or an apartment. Now you start seeing some other buildings, maybe some restaurants or some gas stations and things of that nature. I said, let's zoom out a little bit more. I said, what do you see? See some more businesses. And I said, now, what businesses do you see? So they'll name it, some restaurants, fast food restaurants, grocery stores, gas station, all that. And I asked them, what's not there? I said, what business is not there? And they're, well, we don't have this and we don't have that. I said, that's you. That's you providing that service that's not there. I said, that's part of entrepreneurship. I said, I want to teach you how to be an entrepreneur, sir, because really, I want you in the sweet spot. I said, I want you to be the middleman. I don't want you to be the one that manufactures it, or I don't want you to be the one that retails it. I want you to be the one that provides the access for both of them to meet up. I said, that's what the real money is. So we're going to look at what's the problem, what's the solution. You're the person that provides that for both. I said, that's what we want to look at in terms of entrepreneurship. So, yeah, so like what he says, yes.
Okay, so now let's talk about a little bit of, maybe we have a little bit of a different opinion on something, because I think a lot of times when people go in a certain direction, they may take it too far. So entrepreneurship is great.
Right.
But I would say entrepreneurship is not the cure-all for everybody, because everybody should not be an entrepreneur.
No, they should not.
And so my whole thing is we need to put that out there as an option,
Yes.
so that people can see it as a viable choice and not think that it's not a choice. But, the way to riches is not always being an entrepreneur.
Correct.
My uncle and aunt, very successful, were educators, and they're doing very well.
Right.
And so being an employee is critically important for entrepreneurs because you need employees in order to do the work that
Correct.
To meet the demand of this vision you have and the service that you're providing to the community. So what I don't like is when people look at employees or employment as they look down at it.
Right.
It's not anything to look down at, because
you need that for your business.
Exactly. So that's why I don't like when people talk about entrepreneurship and like you'll never be wealthy if you're not an entrepreneur. No. It takes. I know a lot of people who are wealthy and they've been employed by somebody else, and they had an entrepreneur mindset because they took their innovation, creativity, applied it in an existing business that paid them very well, and they did the right things with it. They invested their money, saved the money, and did things and did very well. So
a lot of tech companies do that. They have their employees when they create things, and they turn over rights to the patent, or they keep the rights for the patent and they trade off things of that nature. My one experience with that when I worked for AT&T, well now AT&T, but created. I used to work in the billing department, so in order to make the bills get there quicker, the last 4 digits of the zip code.
Right.
Well, if you have that on your billing, then the mail gets there quicker. Well, the reason is they want it quicker so they can get the money back quicker for you to pay.
Right.
So I devised, and we used to have this process where we would have to verify that. So I created a system with a partner of mine. Actually, he was a young student in college who was working in technology. We came up with this process and created this system that when we introduced it to the company, ended up saving them millions of dollars in terms of their mailings, just off what we created. And yeah, it was that was one opportunity that I had while working, yet still being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and so with that being said, I know a lot of people. I just went to a networking event, and there was Mr. Ron Davis who has it's the Davis Industries, the Davis Industries Group, and he did a lot of work with EDS, Ross Perot's business. But he was saying he was being so successful. He was making all these different sales and making all this money that Ross Perot was getting. And then he realized that he was only getting a very small percentage. That was enough to make him say, well, I'm going to go ahead and start my own business.
Yes.
So there's nothing wrong with working and being of value to your company, but then you can negotiate and maybe get yourself a bigger cut of the pie. But if that doesn't work, then maybe you should take your skill sets that you've acquired over a number of years, that you've learned, and you continue your education by being paid.
Correct.
Right? Making mistakes on somebody else's dime. Take that experience and now create your own entity and your own business to fulfill your dreams.
Correct.
And then hire other people. And when you're hiring other people, you really help them. So one of the things I was reading about Roland Parrish.
Yes.
And
yes.
Roland had, his family's been in business for over 30 years, really well known. But one of the things that with him and also with Calvin Golden, they value their team.
Yes.
Because if it wasn't for their team, they wouldn't be able to reach and do the things that they're doing now, even philanthropically.
Well, the same thing as leadership. I always, ask people, what's a leader without followers? It's just a person taking a long walk by themselves.
Yeah.
So you have to have, and some of the most successful companies are the ones that value value their employees, which kills me why some businesses don't do that and why they don't, we appreciate you for working there because one thing I learned, like I said, working in corporate, that I could easily make a manager look good or bad. It depends on how well I performed, and it was a reflection on that manager. No matter what they said, and no matter what they've done, if I performed poorly, it reflected poorly on that manager, and they could get rid of that manager. If I did very well, then guess what? That manager did very well, and that manager could be promoted. So understanding one of the things I learned in leadership is in order to be a great leader, you have to be a great follower, and understanding that concept. And if you appreciate the individuals that follow you or work with you, then they'll appreciate and do things for you and make you look good because you're leading them. Because as a leader, you're just a representation of them. So if they're doing a great job, then that's just a reflection really of them. You're just promoting the good things that they're doing.
Yeah, and now let's get back to this question I asked you though.
Yes,
so
sir.
I want to know with your insight now, how can people in the community participate in the economic development that is taking place in their communities? When you look at gentrification and things happen of that nature, I have some thoughts, but I want to hear your thoughts because together we can put some solutions out there for our community.
Yes. Well, the biggest thing is to participate, is changing the mindset in terms of what is it that you want to see. Participating in and supporting small businesses, whether it's either you can start your own business or you can figure out how to participate in terms of real estate and understanding the dynamics of real estate. And just like, business and real estate, same thing. It's just like I always tell people, it's like the human body. You're born, then you're going to die. Every asset goes through that phase of where it's new and it becomes old. And when you start talking about gentrification, you'll never stop gentrification. Gentrification will always be, because gentrification is the same word as development. And I tell people that when you say gentrification, you mean development and redevelopment. They're synonymous.
Yeah, and my question was, how do we participate in that?
You participate by doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't sit on the sideline and scream about it.
Exactly.
You got to participate. You got to do it. So you got to go out there and start your own business, or you got to go out there and participate in helping someone who has started their own business. And you've got to change your mindset in terms of what you value in terms of real estate, in terms of your banking and how you deal with your finances. So it's a participation. It's not just somebody to sit back. I can't give you a specific example in terms of say, hey, you can go out and buy these stocks. You can go that route if you want to, but you can buy property.
Nipsey, right?
Yeah.
Nipsey in L.A., right?
Yeah,
Nipsey
you can do
Hussle.
that. You can rehab. You can create a business rehabbing. You can buy properties and sell them, and you can do cars. You can do those things, but you've got to participate in the process. You can't just sit back and not do anything and hope that opportunity knocks on the door and says, "Hey, I heard you were looking for $1 million."
I got $1 million for you. Right? Okay, so number one. So what I'm hearing, then we got to up our game.
You got to up your game.
So we got to up our game, and tactically, that means learn about how money works. So you go to school, you go to work, do whatever. On your off day, instead of watching TV, instead of going to the happy hour, you need to put something in your mind about how does money work in your personal life and how does it work in your city.
Yes.
That's number one,
Yes.
right? Step number one. So learn how money works, up your game, and apply that in your personal life.
Correct.
Number two, imagination.
Imagination.
Right? Imagination, because everything that we see was created by somebody's imagination, and they just didn't sit on it.
Right.
They just didn't think it and go have a ham sandwich or something, right?
Went to sleep.
Exactly. They thought about it.
Right.
And then if they didn't have the money, they didn't let that stop them. They networked.
Right.
And they used ingenuity, creativity, imagination to figure out how do we get the resources to make this work. And if it's a valuable idea, then resources should be attracted to it.
Right. And I always told people who were talking about that gentrification and what was going on in the neighborhood, and talking to people who may have been doing not necessarily good things, but I was like, look here, guys, you want to really change your neighborhood? Why don't you buy this vacant house, hire some individuals to rehab it, sell it to a family, and then do that? You want to change your neighborhood, that's how you change your neighborhood, but you're going to have to, again, have that imagination.
Change your mindset.
Change your mindset first. And, instead of destroying, create. I mean, we know people that are very ingenious in doing the wrong.
Yeah.
If they would just flip that and did it for good or to create something, we would be a better place. And I guess in short to say, you have to participate. You're right. You have to think about it, then not only think about it, but then you have to act on it.
So let's talk about one of the things. There's so many different solutions, and every solution is needed. So nobody has a monopoly on the one thing, and it's like it takes multiple tasks, multiple services, and everything. So the only thing that the Empower Series is doing, the only thing is putting an event in the community that can give hope. I say give hope, inspiration, education, connection to resources, so that when someone is ready and bold enough to take that next step, and they're feeling like they don't know what to do, they feel like they're blocked, this is where they can get that next piece of information, inspiration or hope or education, or connected to somebody to say, okay, hey, it's possible, right? Consistently, that's what I think is my to try to.
That's why I loved what you were doing, because you said it. You hit the nail on the head. Hope, and that's what I heard from a lot of people. They didn't have hope. They didn't have any type of vision. They didn't have any type of opportunity. Well, the vision to be able to look past now. They were stuck in the now, and they didn't see what were the possibilities. And your program brings in the hope. You give them the possibilities to let them see, hey, this doesn't always have to be. The only reason it is because you are allowing it to be. And I always tell people, you are your worst enemy, and nothing can stop you. The only thing that can stop you is you.
Well, you're being a teacher. You've heard of fixed mindset and a growth mindset. Do you teach any of that in your classroom? The difference between growth and fixed in your class?
All the time.
Okay.
And that's more or less what we're fighting against, is the fixed mindset. And the fixed mindset are the individuals who just see where they're at right now and think that's where it always has to be. And my job is to be able to tell you, okay, you're here right now, but think about this or look over here. Because I always tell them, you're here today as a direct result of the choices you made yesterday. So where do you want to be tomorrow? Where you want to be tomorrow is determined by what you do today. So what is it that you're doing today to prepare you for tomorrow? If you don't do anything, guess where you're going to be? You're going to be right where you're at right now. I said, so think about it. You managed to be able to walk across the street, do whatever you do, and be able to survive and have those skills to be able to get you where you're at right now. We use those same skills to be able to get you where you want to be. And whether that's starting your own business or that's working for a business, you can do the same thing, but you have to identify where you're at and have a plan or some type of plan to where you want to be and go. Because if you stay here, you're gonna always be here. I tell them it's like my grandmother used to tell me all the time. I'd ask her, I say, Grandma, can you give me some water? Can you give me some soda? And she would always tell me, sure, just sit right there. Don't move, just sit right there.
And she wouldn't get you none. Because yeah, I can, but so what was the lesson in that, man?
If you want to go get it,
you got to take some action, right?
Take some action.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, how long did it take you to get that?
About the second time. Second time she said, I was like, oh, okay, you trying to be funny.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, man, so going back to that, one of the takeaways I really want people to get to is this. So this mindset is important.
Right.
And there's a book out there on mindset, and they talk about growth and fixed. And you just hit it on the head. So it starts with your belief. Mm-hmm. And so as a child, and with anything that we want in life, we got to realize that we had a belief that it was possible. We had hope. Mm-hmm. But if you didn't believe it was possible, then you're right. So it's like the little train that think it could, right? If you believe that you have the ability, if you believe in something,
right,
then you're going to take action. Yeah. But if you don't believe, more than likely you're not going to take action. And that's the difference between fixed and growth. So if you have a fixed mindset, you're believing that it is the way it is. It's not going to be any better. So I'm just not going to take any action. Where if you have a growth mindset, you're more inclined to take some action. And even if you take action and it's the first time and it's not successful, you still have a belief. So you're going to continue to take action. Right. And at some point you take action and you'll have some growth because you'll get better. And that will reinforce things. But if you never take action, you'll never have growth. And then people are going to look at things and say, hey, it's just the way it is. It's never going to be better.
And that's why I like what you bring to the table and having people understand success. Mm-hmm. And measuring success and identifying success. Success for one person may be being better than Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods or Serena Williams. But for somebody, it may be just success being able to play those games.
Or it might be being a good parent. Or being a good husband, a good wife.
Right. And those levels, because I used to, I get laughed at all the time. I used to tell people, I'm just as good as Michael Jordan. Mm-hmm. I can play basketball. But I may not be able to play it to his level, but I can play basketball. For me, that was success because if I know I can get out there and shoot, and play and look like I knew what I was doing, right, that was success.
I mean, man, sports is the easiest example of this. But I would tell you, I just had a conversation with a friend of mine. Not going to mention any names because he put his stuff out there on blast, but he was talking to me about a relationship that he wanted to make work out. Mm-hmm. However, I had a conversation with him because he's very successful in all these other areas, but he put effort in those other areas, right? He did things and he learned and he reapplied. But when you look at a lot of times relationships, we wing it. We don't put the work in. We don't read the books. We don't go to workshops. We don't go to counseling. We don't put the same effort and work into making relationships work as we do practicing basketball, or practicing football, or studying for an exam. And so the whole principles of success and this growth mindset applies in everything. And I say that because it's not like either you have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. Mm-mm. We have them both.
Right.
And we may have fixed mindsets in certain aspects of our lives that's not working for us. Maybe it's our health, maybe it's our relationships, our finances. But the growth mindset is usually apparent in areas in our life that we're doing well at. Mm-hmm. And so we need to become more aware of what our beliefs are and how they're impacting the results that we're getting. And I believe that that's the biggest thing of why people are not really participating in the economic development in our communities, because they have a mindset that is not for them. And some of that has been brainwashed, been injected into us. And we got to do a lot of whitewashing to get rid of that.
You do. And to piggyback on what you were saying, it to me, I look at it as being emotional and rational and intellectual. As a real estate agent, and I always tell people this, as a real estate agent, I want you to fall in love with a property. I want you to really like that property. Why? Because if you fall in love with something, we all do it. When you fall in love with people, you do things you wouldn't normally do. Mm-hmm. Everybody plays the fool sometimes. So when you're in love, you overlook things. And, if you take premarital counseling, you learn this, you're only with that person because of what you don't know about that person. So that's one of the lessons that you learn. But
wait. You only with that person because what you don't know about that person.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
That's a whole nother show right there.
Oh my God. It's like, I'm loving who I imagine you to be, right?
Exactly. So now you apply that to the financial aspect of it.
Oh my
I
gosh.
treat finances because of what I think it is and not what I know it is. So
Right.
if I think that this home is for me and this home is nice, it has all the rooms, it looks nice, has a good neighborhood, then I'm gonna overlook, okay, when it's time to pay taxes, I'm gonna overlook when the home devalues, when there's a recession, I'm gonna overlook the fact that this home appreciate when the market is good. But that's the part of real estate that I always try to impart upon my customers, saying, hey, I want you to fall in love with it because, hey, I want to sell the house to you. But I want you to understand that this is an investment. This is not just an investment of the heart, because ideas that this is my property, I'm not going anywhere, this is what we're going to do, we're going to put a stake in it called a National Geographic, this is always going to be the Johnson's residence. No. This is an investment. And if you understand that real estate is an investment, that when you buy a property, you have to be prepared for somebody one day to knock on your door and say, hey, I want to buy your property. I said, that's the reality of buying property and having real estate that some people have and some people don't. And understanding the value of, when you're talking about being in the game, that's that mindset, that's that understanding. Because if you understand that not only is a mental investment, but it's also a financial investment. Because if you bought the house for 110 and it appreciates to 220, I mean, you got a decision to make.
Right.
Do you cash out and go somewhere else, or do you just sit on that and just say, "Oh, hope it comes around again"? So,
Okay. Well, I want to, before we run out of time, I want to get to some deep stuff here, because here's the deal. So it goes back to where you've had some insight. So most citizens don't watch a city council meeting.
correct.
You had a thought about what politics was about before you got in, and you got in, and then you ran again. But now you're a teacher, you're a husband, you've always been a citizen, but you're going to affect people by being a teacher. You're going to affect people by being on the radio show and identifying the good things that are happening in communities. So there are things you can do, and you are empowered as a citizen that many citizens are not aware of. They are probably sitting with some sense of frustration because they're not seeing certain things happen. They're not feeling like they're in the game or can participate in the game. Things are stacked against them. With this growth mindset that we've been talking about, with your insight of knowing, you've been at the table, you've been in the city council meetings when the public wasn't around, in the comments, what can we do to really move the needle when it comes to creating more equity for all people in our cities?
It's about exposure. The best way I can put it is expose yourself to the opportunities to be around the meetings or be around individuals by being on boards, participating in the process, whether it's running, or just sitting down and having a discussion with people that are in the know, expanding your networking abilities, going to networking events, learning, because it's just like telling kids when they go to college. If you just go to college and you just go to your class and go back to your room, you're going to struggle.
So getting involved in an organization that you're currently not involved in.
Right.
So, and it could be something around the city.
It could be around the city or
around your neighborhood. Right? Neighborhood associations.
Correct.
So we were talking before, there was a number of, I think there was a time where the city was encouraging neighborhood associations to apply for
grants,
revitalization grant, right? Now that's just one source, but there's grants out there all the time that are for revitalization of neighborhoods.
Correct.
At different levels, there's government grants, there's family grants, there's all kind of money that's available for that. But some neighborhoods, I was specifically in Highland Hills, they were thinking that was the only source.
No. People think it's just because the city has one, but the county has one, the state has one.
But the problem is that these associations, at least a few that I was talking to, they're not really 501c3s.
Correct.
And they need to become 501c3s.
Correct.
So one of the things, talking about what people can do, is that they can get involved in their neighborhoods. They can find out by going to SCORE or getting information about, or the Small Business Development Center, and finding out what will it take to create a 501c3 nonprofit organization as being part of your community development organization
Yes.
or a neighborhood association or something, and then finding that out and getting resources so that you can get the money to affect the neighborhood in the way that you want to have it affected, either in beautification
Correct.
or doing programs
Right.
programs that are for after school children or in the community to encourage entrepreneurship or teaching entrepreneurship. There's a number of different things that can be done.
Or just partnering with organizations that are already doing it.
Exactly. That's another way.
Yeah, one of the things is always trying to find organizations that do one thing and partnering them with another organization. This is what I always try to do, create systems, because somebody does this, somebody does that, and if I put them together, now I got a system. And if I can provide that system to a group of people, then what I've just done was affected twice as many people as I could with just one organization. So that's another way of they're doing it. Go out in partnership. Matter of fact, if you're doing nonprofits, you have to do that.
Yeah.
So that's part of the process.
So one of the things I was talking about partnering with another a neighborhood association that wasn't a 501c3, but money was an issue. And so one of the things is that if you need to get money, we can partner, raise money for a project, and we can do it through that means. But there's a lot of different ways we can collaborate and partner. One of the values of the Empower Series is collaboration.
Yes.
So collaboration, integrity, imagination, impact, service. So we want to make a difference in the communities, man. So what would you say as a result of our conversation today, right? You know, we should come away with not just talking and feeling good, and we should be doing something. So let's come up with some action items that we should be doing, or we're going to ask our audience to do to really get more engaged in the communities that we're living in. So I'm letting you kind of wrap us up with the to-do list here.
Your to-do list is to ask questions first. And you may say, well, what questions do I ask? Well, just start by asking questions. How can I do this? Who do I talk to about this? And who can I work with? And then what you'll end up finding out is that you'll run into somebody who's trying to do the same thing or has the solution to where you're trying to go, or somebody who's at a beginning stage and you can help them and bring along. The biggest thing is getting involved, starting with your neighborhood association. If you don't have one, create one. Even do PTA or different organizations to learn how the process works in terms of whether it's budgeting, learning how to either write grants, or being involved in the not necessarily political realm of it, but understanding how that works, because there's two entities. There's the financial and there's the political. The financial creates the wealth. The political distributes the wealth, and you have to determine where you're going to be in that. So where are you going to be in policy or finance?
So let's talk about that. So number one, you said ask questions. So someone's out there going like, ask who? You can ask the Empower Series, number one.
Start with Empowerment Series.
At thrive@empowerseries.com. You've got any questions, ask, and we'll get you connected to the resource. That's number one. Who do you ask? Or ask people in your circle. Ask your representative.
Right.
Go to your city council meetings. Ask your representative.
County, yes.
Right? I mean, so I'm talking about, like, when you say ask questions, it's like, who do you ask? So I want to make sure that they know who they can ask.
Right.
And then the second thing you said is get involved.
Get involved.
Get involved in organizations. So organizations around you. So one of the school boards. Your school.
Fraternities, sororities. There's any organization. So if you're in a fraternity or sorority, or you're interested about one, you can do one. If you are going to a school, or you have a child that's going to the school, get involved in the PTA. You're in a neighborhood. Find out what the neighborhood association is. But now let's say, for example, you live in an apartment. We'll start an apartment association.
You can start an apartment association, or let's say you're in
Crime Watch. You can start Crime Watch groups.
Or you're in an industry, whatever industry you're in, go to Google and search your job title and put association on it. So data processing associations, sales associations, if you're accounting associations, any kind of association.
Locksmith associations.
Exactly. Or even if you're at a company, most companies have what's called a affinity group or a business development group. So get involved from that standpoint and meet people. So I want to make sure that we're not just telling you fluff things to do and you're thinking, what do I do? So if you have any questions, you got an email that you can send a question to, and we will get you connected. But if you're looking around you in your circle, if you're working, I would say get involved in your affinity groups, whether it's for gay and lesbians, whether it's for women, whether it's for people of color, Hispanic, Asian, whatever that is. That's a good start. And build relationships with people, man.
Correct.
Relationships are critically important because nothing can be done on your own.
Correct.
On your own, man. So I our time is kind of running out.
Oh man, an hour already?
I know. And I feel bad because I really didn't get to the real juicy stuff, right?
Well, that just means you have to invite me back.
Well, or you can invite me on your radio show. When is your radio show going to start in the first place?
Probably within the next couple of weeks here.
Okay.
Yeah. So once I do it, I'll make sure I give you a call, and you can come on my show, and we can continue this discussion.
All right. Now what you're doing now? You are a real estate agent?
Yes.
Okay. So who you working? Are you working on your own, or
I am? I'm looking for a broker to work under.
Okay. So you're looking for a broker to work under. So you're going to do that as you teach.
Yes.
So you're a teacher, real estate agent. You're going to be on the radio. Mm-hmm. Anything else you're doing? Like how many more jobs you got?
I'm still involved in the community. I'm still a community activist. So still a husband, still a dad. So
if people want to get in touch with you, if they have any questions, they can ask you. Do
Yes.
you have a website or an email or?
Yeah, you can go to erikrwilson.com, and that's ERIK letter R Wilson.com. You can always email me at erw150@yahoo.com.
Okay. So those are the ways that people can get in touch with you.
Yes, sir.
You don't want to put your number out there. I got you.
No, I need the sales. You can also definitely give me a call. I answer text as well, 214-236-1905. And if you have any questions, whether it's about how city works or if you want to buy a house, anything like that, I'm more than willing to be able to assist.
So if you're listening to this, or when you send it to somebody else and you're listening to this, if you want to get connected with somebody who can give you some direction as to where to go, you've got the information now. So you have the tools in front of you. You've been empowered,
yes.
By the Empower series. We're giving hope, inspiration, education, and connections that can help you take the next step to achieve your goals. So, I want to thank you, bro.
Appreciate you, bro.
And I want to thank you guys for watching. Again, for us to do stuff like this, we couldn't do it if it wasn't for the help of Comerica Bank, AE Media Group for what they're giving us here, your donations. If you want to give more, we can always use more. You can go to our website at www.empowerseries.com. You can text, give, or donate to 214-225, I got to get the number right, 225-6337. Come to our events. Go to our website, subscribe to our YouTube channel, connect with us on social media. Don't let this be the last time that we connect. And I really want this to be global, worldwide. So there are people within your circle that can really benefit from knowing about the Empower series. So really share this with everyone, save somebody's lives, take action, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.